let's let the people know that you actually have a book, but it's really more than just a book because it's a guide, and it's called The Power of Connection,
Yeah.
Understanding Individual Differences to Uplift and Empower.
It's amazing how people turn and acquiesce to your needs when you treat them in a way that they feel comfortable.
This is non-discriminatory. It goes across every demographic,
That's right. That's right.
every color, and like you said, pretty much every age. You're saying from 2 years on up, when they have some sort of cognitive reasoning to be able to understand certain things, right? Because
Right.
I would imagine that there is a process to learn how to do some of these things. Hey, have you ever found yourself wondering why it is that you're not connecting with people, or why people aren't connecting with you? Now, communication and connection are vital to growth, whether it be individually, yourself, or within a group of people, such as maybe at work or something like that. Well, my guest today is Dr. Dianne Olvera, and she can be found at drdianneolvera.com. So everything's going to be in the show notes. But aside from that, that connection is very, very important. I'm sure that you want to feel like you're connecting with people because it makes you feel fulfilled. If not, let me know why that is. But if you are connecting to people, why don't you share what your secret is? But in the meantime, please listen to Dr. Dianne Olvera and my conversation. And please remember, if you are a pet owner, be responsible and have your pets spayed or neutered. Thanks.
Welcome to Amazing People, Amazing Things with your host, Chuck the Talk.
And it all started when my husband and I were diplomats. And because when I was a child, my parents wouldn't let us speak. I would get soap, freshly wet soap, slid behind my front teeth every time I would talk back or ask a question. And if that didn't work, I literally got the belt, the wooden spoon. I mean, it was very, very difficult. So I kept thinking to myself, there's got to be a better way to talk with people. And when I'd go to friends' houses, that's what I would see, that they were more comforting to each other. So I became a stewardess, and that helped me also because I had an opportunity to see people from all over the world and how to interact with them, because there are some people you don't look at, it's not respectful, and there are other people that are being aggressive, and then you give them the bad eye. And actually, I don't know, I actually took a man's tooth out with my hip.
Should I ask how and why?
Well, yeah. We were flying the Indianapolis 500 turnaround, and we had forks at the time, real forks and coach. And so we were in a rush, and I swiveled when I shouldn't have, and I got his elbow and got right. And my flying partner didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to do. I was really new. So what did I do? I ran up to the cockpit, flung open the door, and said, "Hey, Captain, you can't land the plane yet. I just knocked a man's tooth out with my hip." So after everybody got off, there was an ambulance at the bottom of the stairs. And he said, "Get in." So I did, and I thought he was taking me to jail. I mean, something's going to happen. And no, he radioed down and told the tower that he had the only stewardess in the world that had such hips that she takes men's teeth out. So that started my journey to, you got to think about what you're saying and how you're saying it. I mean, I could have caused an accident, but I was blessed.
Well, you swiveled instead of shifting. Shuffled. I want to throw something in because, like you said, about the travel and experiencing people and culture. I just want to throw this in real quick, is that is really a big thing. And I know that Western people, not everybody, but a lot tend to travel. And if they travel internationally, they expect that culture to know us rather than us knowing their culture.
Yes.
Which we need to shift that.
Exactly. Even diplomats. it was embarrassing to welcome a diplomat from the United States, have him get off the airplane, shake hands with someone from the country that we were in, and say, "Hey, where are the tacos and tortillas?" You don't do that in Argentina. They were shocked. I mean, the hand goes down, the body goes up, and they show them to the car, and they escort them wherever they are supposed to go. So no, it's very important that we understand everyone's cultures.
Yeah, and just kind of going along with that, I think there are some differences. We visit a foreign country. We should know a little bit about their culture and how to act. But in turn, if we invite somebody, we should also know their culture and how to act and react. It's a difference if they just come over here, then they should know some of our stuff. But I look at it as if I invite somebody here, I should know how to respect and how to do things. Like I said, there might be something with some countries where you don't point at the person and things like that. Or if you are pointing, you might use your thumb instead of your index finger. So there's a lot of little things.
Right, right. Well, in our schools today, a lot of our children that come from Mexico or some of the Oriental countries are told, "Don't you dare look at your teacher. That's very disrespectful." And what's the first thing the teachers say? "Look at me." Yeah. And then you end up in the principal's office and maybe suspended for doing exactly what your culture tells you to do.
Yeah, you're so right about specifically about that, because here in America we have, there are a lot of students English as a second language, and that means that there are a lot of nationalities and a lot of different languages. And it's just a little learning curve, and hopefully this is where your book and your guide comes in to help people. And if it's a 2-year-old or a 5-year-old, they're not going to read the book, but maybe the parents will, and then they can guide, the children.
That's right. Well, after I got back from Mexico and Argentina and doing our diplomatic work, I spent 12 years in graduate school. And I studied, my first doctorate is bilingual special education. I wanted to see how the brain worked from all different angles, from the norm to this really severe abnorm. And then that wasn't enough, because they were still mistreating individuals that I worked with. And so I got another doctorate in cultural differences. And it's really, really has helped. Because now you can look at a person, the whole person. How is his brain working? What can I do to help that brain? I'm amazed at how depleting our country is. As soon as you get any diagnosis, ADD, and there was a boy here who threw a rock and killed someone. And because he had ADD, they were on to fight to have him have his case thrown out. So it's not that I'm wanting people to have diagnoses, but remember that just because you have a uniqueness, you're beautiful. And every one of my more severe autistic students that I have worked with over the years, they're married. They have amazing jobs, and they have families.
Yeah. I want to throw out a 7-letter word, not the 4, but the 7-letter word. Now, hopefully I counted it out correct. Empathy.
Yes, yes, yes. But how do you show empathy? When you're in an office and you're in a big business, what I'm finding, and tell me if I'm wrong, is that often people that are at the head of the business, or your boss, your immediate boss, or that boss's boss, they're afraid to show empathy for fear that it's going to make them look like they're vulnerable. And on the contrary, if you can show empathy, you then enter that person's whole genre, their whole way of being, and they respect you more.
Yes, and to go along with part of your subtitle of your book, about the uplift and empower, having empathy, I believe, gives you the ability to empower both yourself and the other person,
Right.
and that means you're uplifting both people.
Right.
That's how I feel. That's what I think.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And people will be more forthcoming. We're finding that our students that are coming out of high school and college, even my college students, they don't have self-awareness. I did that in my law class. I said, okay, everybody, I don't want your name. I don't know where you're from. I don't care. Tell me about yourself. Do you know not one person, and these were 20, 30, 40-year-old people. No one could tell me, who I am. This is who I am. This is what I have done. This is what are my strengths. But if you start back with a 2-year-old and you say, dude, you can throw that ball into your box from like 2 steps away, you are really an accurate person that can throw balls. And then you might, as they get older, you write a beautiful paper. But you have to be very specific. You don't just say, that was a good paper. What specifically did you like? Now you become self-aware. Self-awareness promotes self-confidence. Because if I tell you, you're very easy to talk to, I love your voice, it's calming, and you project well. Your thoughts and your questions are well projected and well thought out. So you have 3 different areas of your being that are parts of you that are beautiful.
Yeah.
Once you get your self-esteem, you then become self-confident. When you're self-confident, you can start using that with other people. And then we can have open conversations of what is positive about you and what might be changed or what we could do differently.
This may sound weird or different or a different way of thinking about this. You have to be a good person with a good intent. And the reason I say this, with having empathy, and if you're not a good person with good intent, you can use that to manipulate.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I don't know if you saw on Netflix White Collar.
No.
It's a series. Oh, you got to watch it.
Okay.
They actually work for, let me see, not the CIA, but, oh my gosh, I can't remember.
One of these acronyms from the
Yeah,
government.
one of the acronyms for the government. And he was in jail for doing something bad. But now they recruited him into the group so that they can find the bad guys. And what does he do? He smiles. He talks wonderful things. He can explain things so beautifully. So what do? You buy in.
Yeah.
Now, you can, over time, if you really start using these strategies, because as a diplomat, we were also spies. And so we did get involved with the bad guys. So you needed to know when somebody was playing you.
Yeah.
And that all starts with awareness. That's one thing that we don't have. Open your awareness. How often do you look at your friends, look at your wife, look at your support staff when you're talking with them? Especially after you've known them for a while. You don't. That is good.
It is such, when you become older and you're in this business world, we're talking, well, even not necessarily in the business world, but when we get older and too smart for our own good, it becomes a powerful tool, but it also becomes a fine dance, like you said. But we don't want to go around doubting everybody, and there's got to be ulterior motives. What are they doing? How come they're so nice? And so it's such a fine dance.
No, but that's where you get to open conversations.
Mm-hmm.
So let's say you and I are just meeting each other now. But as we are discussing and we get to know each other, and maybe we contact each other in the future, I get to know who you are. Or even in the same conversation that we have, I feel, my gut feeling, because now my awareness is open, that is this a question that I'm going to be comfortable with? Now, I can go along with you and play the game, or I can look you right in the eye and say, I'm not comfortable with this. Can we try another question?
This sounds like to me you're setting like boundaries, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. There were some countries that we had to be very careful with. And so they would often, especially being a woman, they would often try to get the female alone so that they could see how vulnerable they are. And we were just, no one, I mean, that was a little bit in our orientation, but a lot of the people fell for it. So if you fall for it, that's how you get mixed up into situations that are very uncomfortable to get out of, or it's too late to get out of. So, but when you open your awareness, you'll find things, when you start to see things that you overlooked in the past, it's amazing how you pick up on things.
So let's put this in an everyday situation for an everyone, everyday person in situation. How is it that we understand and get to that point of being aware without becoming paranoid or becoming this obvious, always looking over your shoulder type of thing?
Yeah.
So how do we do that? What are the steps?
Actually, I find that the easiest way, and it sounds, you're going to think this is really crazy, but watch interviews. Watch like a morning interview show and look at body structure, body language, eye contact, how they're folding their arms. There's one person that I used to watch that when that person would start talking to someone, she would lean in. And then she'd make eye contact. And the questions would start out very simple. And then they'd become a little more complex and a little more intimate. And at first you see the other person lean back, and then the arms. And then pretty soon the arms unfold, and their body leans. They don't even realize they're doing this. And then, and they'll turn around like, oh my God, I said things to you that I said I wasn't going to say. There you go.
You know,
It's the art of communication, art of connection.
A game of espionage and spy. But yeah, you're right. You're gaining the trust, and having your arms open is I'm inviting, I'm open. So I definitely can see that, and you're absolutely right as far as if you want to pick up on some of these skills or to be able to recognize and be aware, watch the interviews, watch the professional news people. I do not watch or like the reality shows. However, when I used to, and the reason I do watch it is to watch what people, how they react, because they bring on different types of people. I know that they're looking for certain types, but you begin to understand possible stress levels of people, what they can handle, their boundaries, how different people have different type of boundaries. It all comes down, I think, to their physical appearance. You know, there's difference in boundaries and things like that. So
Yeah, let's say you're walking down the street and somebody walks up towards you. Now, your body's telling you, I'm not comfortable with this guy. So what do? You keep your eyes down. When the guy gets right up to you, you look him right in the eye. And that makes we start to lock brains, and it's power. He or that person could feel the power of my look at him. I do it. You do it. We all. You do it with your kids often. You know, what do? Somebody does something wrong. You give them instead of saying, "Hey," you just look at them and go, "Really?"
We've heard it. You give them the stink eye or whatever it might be, right?
Exactly. Yeah. But you can do it in the office. You can do it with your husband, with your wife. You can use it with anyone, but you got to be careful. It's a
Yes.
lot easier to start up with comforting looks than it is
I,
to give them the stink eye.
yes, and I was going to say, go along with what you're saying. It's the opposite. Is if you're walking towards, and even if you feel uncomfortable, if you smile, you're both at ease, and they may give you a nod, or you can even give a nod and a little smile. It just, I don't know if alleviates is the correct word, but it just puts a comfort, I think, on both sides.
Absolutely. But if that person doesn't smile and they come up and you can see that they're very angry about something, probably not you, you lower your eyes to say, "I'm not going there," in your head, and then you walk around them and you leave, and you you walk quickly.
Yeah, yeah, right. Because sometimes, and even doesn't necessarily mean a cultural thing. If you look, and if you look too long, and if they're in that mood, it's a stare down. All of a sudden, not a competition, but you're bringing on that anger towards you type of thing. I don't know the right word to use.
You know, you get the, "Hey, what are you looking at?" You know, and
Yeah, it's a challenge, just like in the Wild Kingdom.
yes, yes. So you got it. Yeah, exactly. So my goal, especially, imagine if you had a business and you had 5 generations in your business. You have 5 different personality types of how you should be using your interactions. How do you change your social interactions with each one so that they become a cohesive group? And that's where I look at how we process information differently.
Okay.
So, there are some people that are very, as we say, loquacious, where they like to talk a lot. And they often will tell a lot of details or look for details. And sometimes if you were in a meeting with a person like that and they're asking one question after another, and if you are a type of person who just wants the bottom line, by the end of 10 minutes you want to walk out or ask him to walk out. And so if you really defined his processing style, is that his brain needs all of these little pieces of information in order to make sense of the bigger picture. Your brain needs the big picture in order to figure out what to do next with the little pieces. Now, what if we had a great big project and it had to be done by Friday and today's Monday? And I would ask you, who have a wonderful sense of being able to talk, but you want the bottom line. And then I take the guy that you really think is going to be a pain in the dupa, and he fills in the details. You present the great idea. He starts saying, or she starts saying, "Oh, good, we have to get this information, we need this, we have these color schemes, we have this." You're blown away. Now, how do you want to put those together? We put them together. And guess what? You become a beautiful marriage of 2 people who thought they were completely opposite. But now they're making something that no one else could create on their own.
Does this fall into a little bit about, or something about that you talk about in your book about perception?
Yes, it is
Okay.
perception. How we perceive people can be very different than how they process information. You know, when you're processing information, it is what are you literally doing with the things that might be making me frustrated? So I'm perceiving you one way, but I'm not looking at you for your beauty or your abilities. How do you enhance this practice? How do you enhance my life? How do I enhance yours? And so when a specialist comes together with a generalist and they start to understand this is really not to bug you, this is just how my brain works, then it makes a beautiful combination. I had a couple come into my office and they were ready to divorce. Neither of them looked at each other when they spoke, looked straight ahead. And one of them just talked and talked and talked and talked. And the other one obviously was just rolling the eyes, rolling the eyes. So then it was when the other person's chance to talk, it was bottom line, bottom line, bottom line. Never looked at the other one. So I said, you know, I see two things. You process this way, you process this way. And I also noticed you're not using your eyes. Can you try that for a week? They came back in a week and very happy. Bottom line was they said, sex was great. I said, I don't remember talking about that. They said, well, we realized that this was a real benefit to have in my life. I want to redo the kitchen. And I know that I kind of want these things. And then he started putting in all these details. And I turned around, I flung my arms around him, I said, I love you. And he said, great. And then that was the end of the story. They never divorced.
That means keep your eyes open all the time.
Exactly. Well, and don't look at each other for their deficits.
Yeah.
You know, how do I take that deficit and turn it into something that is going to enlighten my life or improve it? You know, maybe it's somebody who likes to clean a lot, and that person is really going to help you out because maybe you don't like to. And accept that as a benefit, and remember, tell them what you think. I really appreciate that. What do you like? The specifics.
Does this kind of fall into, you know, what we talked about earlier with boundaries as well? Can this fall right in there with that?
Yes, it can. But when you set the boundaries and how you set them are very important. If right at the beginning of your relationship, or let's say you've been with a person for quite some time, 20, 30 years, whatever, and you're starting to get on each other's nerves, you really need to think about how that person is communicating with you. So what I'm going here is, if it's a brand new relationship, then I start out with looking for the positives, because I really want to get to see what is making that person comfortable. Once that person is comfortable, and then they start to see that I see some of their attributes and I bring that out, now when we have to open up, we can, because that person feels that I am not there to negate anything or demean them. I want to be a friend with you, but I want to be a friend at your level and my level. How you process and how I process. Did I get that? Did I answer that the way you wanted it, or are you looking for something else?
Oh, I'm letting you answer it the way that it should be answered, so I'm good with anything. However, I want to ask about this because we're talking all about the positive aspects of all of this, and we're humans.
Sure.
And we're humans, and I think by human nature, we may seek out the positive stuff, but we embed the negative. What I'm saying about that is, like you said, look for the positive in people. Sure, we look for the positive, but what sticks with us is the negative. And we do that to ourselves,
Absolutely.
and we do that to others. So how do we change that?
That's right. Well, there's two different ways. One is self-talk, obviously. if you give a lecture and you have 300 people and 299 say everything's great, and then that one person, tells you, oh, I didn't like your tie or whatever, you're all the way home, you're thinking of that. They've downshifted you. And so I start looking at the speech patterns that I'm using within my own body. So speech patterns can start out as a joke. So you could be with a bunch of friends that you've known for years, and they go, yeah, man, your pockets are so deep that every time we go to check out, pay the bill, you never can find your wallet until like 2 blocks down the street. That's a joke. But then the other guys start picking up on the same speech pattern, and they start digging in at you. And it can last for 1, 2, 3, 20 years. And you don't even know that your speech pattern is demeaning your relationship. So when you do that outside your head with people, and you start to recognize speech patterns in other people and other relationships, and even in your own, you are now becoming more aware. Once you become aware of the outside of you, now you can become aware of the inside. Dianne, my goodness, you had 299 people say that they loved your conversation, and one person said, oh, I don't like you in blue. And you ruminated on the color blue for the rest of the time that you were with it, or the time that you were by yourself.
This leads me to wonder if sometimes being too honest is not the right thing to do. Meaning that, like you said, sometimes some people in a jokingly way says, oh, you claim your pocket's so deep, but it's always so shallow when it comes time to whatever might be. And you're joking, but is there a point where it's too much, or you don't want to say, you know what, if you're trying to do this, just don't do it. It's a terrible thing. I don't know how to convey the negativity that I want to, but I'm just thinking that sometimes being overly honest every single time about every little thing can be a detriment to the person that you're projecting to and to yourself, because of the relationship that you're going to end up changing. It's almost like sometimes you have to be the parent and whatever it might be. Oh, everything's okay. Don't worry. Yeah. Maybe look at it this way the next time. Am I in the wrong direction?
No, now you're at another area, and that's called ask, don't tell. So in your relationship, you usually set your boundaries, or what you like, what you don't like. I don't know. Hey, I don't like when you kid me like that. I mean, if you're having an open conversation with them. So, and even if it's somebody that you don't know, you can look them right in the eye and say, now, was that a comfortable thing to say? And then you lower your eyes and then move on. You don't have to rag on. I mean, here's an example of a minuscule thing that turned out to be really bizarre. A young guy was in, I think, 5th grade, and the teacher said, hey, that was a stupid thing to say. That's it. Just didn't even think twice. I met this guy, I think he was a freshman or sophomore in high school. And every time I talked to him, it was like, well, that's stupid. Yeah, that my mother's stupid. Oh, man, this book is stupid. Oh, this homework is stupid. And I said, I see a pattern. He said, what's that? I said, stupid. Whoever said stupid to you? I thought for a while. He said, oh, my gosh, way back in 5th grade, that person said that was a stupid thing to say. I said, you carried stupid in your heart for all these years. Had we not caught it, you may not have been as successful as you are today.
Wow. I say wow on that because that is so profound and powerful, because I now think about a couple of words. Not that I have this issue or that it is projected upon me, but no, it really seems like certain words and certain things have changed over the generations. But I'm going to go back a little bit because that word stupid was that I think was in our generation time frame where it's different now. But also I think along with stupid, it would be the I don't care.
Yeah, right.
And you're right, those things stick with you. And
Right.
I wonder now, what are those words that are being put into the young people's minds that
You are so awesome
is
because you just led into another one of my theories. Extension
call me
words.
smart,
Yeah,
please. No.
man. And so 5 years from now, we talk to each other and that goes, so you're smart about this and you're smart about that. Are you dumb about anything?
Everything. So it leads us into something.
Extension words. Extension words. You're talking with somebody or they get up and walk away. I don't know. I don't care. And so you look at them and you go, because? Because you're not worth talking to. And? And you just really make me mad. So? Because? You know, and as you lead them on without realizing, you literally have opened the door of communication. Even to people that don't like to be communicating with you, they will open that door. And sometimes I'll actually explain why. I'm opening the door because I care about you and I want to know what is happening either that I'm doing or our life is doing to cause you to feel so uncomfortable in your own body or with whatever. And that's when they start. I don't know, because, yeah. And then they'd say a little bit more, and you don't look judgingly. None of this, none of the the stink eye. Just like you're interested.
Well, I'm going to put this in here because your book, your guide, The Power of Connection, Understanding Individual Differences to Uplift and Empower. That's the name. We can almost change that to the power of communication.
Yes.
Because that's what I think this connection and everything comes down to, that communication.
Yeah.
Just the way I'm hearing it from you.
But see, a lot of people will read communication as a verbal interaction.
Yes.
See, but connection is your eyes, your body, your mindset. So it's those little nuances that I think we as a country are forgetting to talk to each other. And even if you were mad at somebody and you talked it out, it's done. You don't need to keep hashing it over. Or let's say somebody forgets to get milk, and see, I told you never bring the milk home, blah, blah, blah. Stop. It's over. And then what do you need to bring when you go to the store today? What do you need to bring? The milk. Good. Thanks. Boom. It's over. When he brings the milk home, the milk is home. Thanks. Instead of dragging on, what are we dragging on? We're dragging on our emotional status that is bringing all of us down. But when it's over, we have life to live.
You make it sound so plain and simple. It kind of is, but I'm going to ask this now because we are in that situation as a society. I'm going to leave out the rest of the world. I'm just going to talk about here in the States, where we have become really divisive, decisive, if that's going to be a word too, on how we look at things and how we look at others. And it comes down to, I thought we were friends, but there's that one thing, maybe one individual or one group of people that has changed. And then now it's changed my relationship with you. How do I get around that? How do people get around that and accept that person or that group?
I deal with this all the time. And because we were diplomats, people do keep coming up and saying, "Oh, how do you like this now? How do you like this now? How do you like it?" You know, and it's like I look at things through my own eyes, and if you want to discuss it, that's fine. But if it gets too heavy, if you don't mind, I'm going to walk away because it's uncomfortable, and I don't need that today. But I do appreciate you as a friend. And I do appreciate our relationship.
Once again, like setting a boundary.
It's setting a boundary, permitting them to have their life and their relationship and their thoughts. I'm not going to impose on those, but I am also going to say that when your thoughts are impeding our relationship or imposing on my relationship, you're not permitting me to see you as the person that I know. And I will accept and entertain anything that you have to say about pros and the cons of certain situations. It's good because it gives us an opportunity to talk. I learned this in Argentina because when I first went to Argentina, I went down as an American, and I was not accustomed to people hugging me, kissing me, and telling me to my face what they thought. I was shocked. I wanted to run away. I wanted to hide. And then I realized they're telling me things because they want me to be their friend. They want me to know how they feel about me, the person. And maybe they didn't want me to be like the ugly American. So I call it open conversations. It's amazing if you go on and watch a series, and you watch an American series versus a Latino or a Brasileño, you'll see the communication, and they are right at each other, open, honest, and to your face. And so I brought that back with me. And so maybe I look like I can be strong, but I started with, I really enjoy your relationship with me and my friendship with you. But these conversations that we keep having are pulling down the fun and the conversations that we have that are enlightening and fun and enjoyable. This is enlightening, but now that we've discussed what you feel is on your mind and what you feel is happening in our world situation, I appreciate that. But is it okay if we change the subject or go on to something else so that we both are more comfortable?
I would imagine that this is something that you want to establish either up front or close to up front, because I think if you wait, too long down the line, that person is going to maybe have in their head, oh, he or she is comfortable with this conversation. But then when you say it a year later, this really bothers me, this, that, they'll say, well, why is it that you let me talk about this all the time? And then that may trigger another little argument.
But that's open conversation.
Yeah.
And maybe a couple years ago or 6 months ago or even a week ago, I never thought of those things. But I'm thinking about them now. And I'm thinking about our long-term friendship and relationship to be maintained, deepened, and fulfilled in all areas that we discuss. And because of that, I really want to enjoy the complete conversation and not when we get to a certain point have you get up and walk away on me. Because if that's the case, every time any conversation on that topic comes up, I'm going to ask that we stop. Because I value my friendship with you more than I do this inadequacy or uncomfortable feeling.
I'm going to use a situation that I was in with a very good friend. And I'll first preface it by saying I'm never right and I'm never wrong. I always like to learn.
We all do that, yeah.
Yeah. The friend is, we see things very different, where I may be more open to possibilities where this person is close to any possibilities, but they do the opposite of what they say. So we always have this conversation at the end of our time together, and this person's wife finally one time said, "I wish you guys would just stop." So later on, I actually asked him, "Does this bother you, their conversation? If it bothers you, I won't ask anymore." So I asked his permission. And then I asked about his wife, but he said, "Oh, don't worry about her."
Yeah.
But again, it went on for a long time, and neither one of us asked, "Is it okay?" And I think he felt more comfortable, and hopefully he mentioned to his wife that, we did talk, and then hopefully he kind of asked her if it's okay. But we have slowed down on that. I'll call it the butting of heads.
Yeah, you could even do it in something so simplistic as you're living with someone. I'm going to turn the air conditioning on. Is that okay with you? That's respect. I want to start a new topic, or I want to start a topic with you. This is you with your friend. I want to start a topic with you, but I'm a little concerned that if we do, we're going to start butting heads. If that happens, can you give me a sign that I'm starting to bug you, or can I give you a little sign? Because my goal is to stay friends with you for life, because I've really enjoyed how deeply we really can get in to the nitty-gritty of things. So now, yes, have I set the stage? And I may end up setting the stage every time we get together, because we have these speech patterns so ingrained in our relationship that we have to unlearn and relearn. It's like the brain. The brain has to, take those neural connections and then reconnect them to be able to establish new connections. So that's what I'm doing in my relationship. I am connecting with you from the past, that's that old one, and now I'm going to make new neural connections that are going to be maybe lighter, more airy, or more profound, but more of substance.
Now we're getting into the psychology of all this behavior, because it also seems like, again, we're all different. And I think oftentimes that many of us will say one thing, we mean another, or we say we can tolerate, I could tolerate anything. But not really. I've seen friends where a group of conversations going on, everybody's open, we're conversing, and everybody at the beginning said, "Oh yeah, it's no big deal. I can talk about this. It doesn't bother me." Like the third time around, by the end of the conversation, they were not physically fighting, but it was a verbal fight, and it was like,
Okay.
That's it. No longer, I'm not friends. Get out of here. Get out of my face. You bother me.
Yeah, and
And then the third person, you're going, "Oh my gosh."
Yeah. And that's where you can either set the boundaries up front. Guys, we really are good friends. But we always end up, or sometimes a couple of us end up, really getting frustrated with each other. Is this worth another day in our life? So when they start to get heated, just say, "Hey, wait." And then you do the ask, don't tell. Is this a good choice? And you look at him. Is this a good choice? Well, yeah, because I don't like what this son of a gun is saying to me. And is this a good choice? Are we going to end up fighting each other and walking away? Probably. Is that a choice you want for all of us right now? Well, no. So what choice did you make to let us be all in a good mood and have fun? You're telling me to shut up? I'm telling you that I like you, and if you want to be friends with us tonight and have a fun evening, you know what you got to do. You got it.
And it's okay to back down. You don't always have to push to win. You don't always have to push to have that last word. So,
That's it.
yeah, it doesn't mean you have to complete that task, right?
But you know what I love? You are discussing a speech pattern. And it's a very typical speech pattern. You've now recognized it. You know who in the party seems to be the most provocative. So if you had coffee with both of them alone, and you said, I had this really crazy conversation with this lady the other day, and she made me think about something. And she calls it speech patterns. And I'm going to throw something out at you guys and see what you think. And how do you think that those speech patterns are improving or deteriorating the relationship in our group? You guys are smart. You know, you guys are professionals. You know, I really value it, many of the things that you tell me. But what I don't value is losing relationships and friendships because of speech patterns that got out of control. How can we change it?
There's so much to be learned.
Yes, it's very hard. You told me right at the beginning, you said, this sounds so simple. It's very simple, but we have been using these for years. Our parents used it with us. How do we break those molds? Just a little bit at a time. And little by little, you start finding that you're having more fun now that you've had that conversation because they're telling the stupidest jokes and you're laughing at them.
Yes. Jokes can lighten things up, but tell the right joke. Dr. Dianne, can you remind the folks again where to go to get your information, your book, and everything?
Right. It will be, it's coming out hopefully at the end of the month, and it'll be on Amazon. And it's, you know, you've already mentioned the power of connection, you know, understanding individual differences to uplift and empower. And then my website is Dr. Dianne Olvera. It's www.drdianneolvera.com.
I think, can't you get there just with Dr. Dianne O?
You could,
I'm going to check something.
yeah, you can try. Yeah, I had an old one on there that was not my, you know, not my business one, and it might have been Dr. Dianne O, and it had, you know, my background education and everything. Is that what John?
Oh, I think I misspelled it.
It's Dianne.
Yep. Continue to cite. I've got a lot of VPNs and all this stuff on here, but maybe, you know what? Forget that, folks. Do what the doctor said. Dr. Dianne Olvera.
Right. We actually
.com.
are working on all of my media so that it you can just type in one thing and it'll come up correctly. Yeah, because you know over the years you add these different names and you come in under different groups of whatever. So this way it'll be just one name, and hopefully there is one. It's author Dr. Dianne. I think Dr. Dianne author or author Dr. Dianne. So
Okay.
I'll have.
We'll make sure in the show notes that we get the one or the correct or a couple of them in there that are going to lead everybody to the right place. And I'm going to put in a last word.
Go for it.
I just want to throw this in too, because we talked a lot about international and things like that, but I hopefully people understand that it's also cultural differences within our own boundaries of America, because you have West Coast really different from East Coast. We were talking about direct, when people say things direct and they don't dance around things. You know, a lot of times the East Coast is going to be direct with you. And they might be blunt, and you might be offended or taken aback. Or, oh my gosh, they're angry, they're mad. No, that's just the way they are. So we talked about travel. That goes, again, within our borders too. Know your know thy neighbor.
Yes. Yes.
So,
No, I think that was wonderful. That was a perfect ending, because you kind of encompassed everything that we've been discussing in those last two sentences. That was well done.
gosh, thank you.
Well done, my friend. Give that boy an A.
Well, Dr. Dianne Olvera, thank you very much today. I hope we're able to cover the things that you wanted to talk about and that folks know. And folks, definitely go to the doctor's website, and open your personal borders to communication,
Yeah.
whether to strangers or to your existing friends and neighbors.
Right, right. Well, any questions, please pose them, and I'll be glad to answer.
Right. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our time together. You were most kind and really fun.
You are too.
Yay.